Hello, business students. So if you are starting this lecture, it means that you have taken your MBTI. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator is one of the most popular personality tests in the world. About 3.5 million people take the MBTI annually. This is a personality inventory that helps supervisors identify their employees' strengths and weaknesses. Additionally, it discovers how employees process information, solve problems, and make decisions. Jung was the founder of analytical psychology. The scholar argued random variations in human behavior were explainable. He claimed these distinctions occurred because people used their perception and judgment differently. Young said perception is how an individual becomes aware of items, people, events, and ideas. He defined judgment as the way someone develops conclusions about what they've perceived. Most individuals differ in the way they perceive the world and how they reach conclusions. Their differences correspond to their interests, reactions, values, motivations, and skills. So, how many MBTI types are there? There are 16 personality types. Each one of them has a four-letter combination. So, versus I, extroversion versus introversion, is how you get your energy. S or N, sensing versus intuition, talks about how you take in information and learn. Um, this T or F, thinking versus feeling, talks about how you make decisions. And J or P, judging versus perceiving, talks about how you organize your time and your environment. I wanted to also mention if you happen to get an even number in one of the columns, that the general it people generally defer to the second letter in each of these four columns. So if you get an answer of 5 for E and 5 for I, you can go ahead and select I. Same thing for S and N. If you get an even number for both, choose N. For T and F, you would choose F. And for J or P, you would default to P. Um, and we'll talk a little bit more about what these exactly mean. So these are all the 16 different personality types. Um, each person spends some time using each of these faculties, but they're comfortable using one preference over another. All of these perspectives cause people to see the world from a unique perspective. All right, extroversion. People who um, gain energy from being around other individuals are considered extroverts. They tend to be excellent problem solvers. They tend to have a lot of friends, and they seem to always have people around them. They're comfortable working within groups, and they are the go-getters that want to start an activity, and they're the first ones to say yes when they're invited out. Introverts. Introverts can also have a lot of friends. They can also be around people often. But the thing that differs from introverts is that they gain their energy from taking a step back and being by themselves and being able to digest internally and reflect. So they may come across as a little bit more reserved. They may not flock to the crowds, but they might, just kind of hang around by themselves or be around one or two people. Um, and sometimes they reflect a lot and may not jump into a situation because they've overthought it. For example, if everyone's going out after the football game, they might consider it, and then, the moment is over and everyone's gone. Sensing. So sensing refers to the physical reality, the six senses, and their practical experience and education. So these people tend to work through the facts and they want to understand the root of issues. Um, they can take all of those components and form a big picture. They trust their own experiences rather than symbols or words. And they might miss new possibilities because they pay so much attention to facts. So, sensing versus feeling, it's talks, it examines how people collect information from the environment. So, if you focus on the details, then you tend to be more sensing. Um, and then individuals that add meaning to the world are intuitive. So the intuitive ones, they are more able to draw conclusions and develop impressions and generalize ideas from the information that they receive around them. They tend to like new and different things. They're a little bit more abstract. So they'll remember, they might not remember, what shirt you were wearing, but they remember how they felt when they were with you, for example. Intuitive people, they're kind of like internally reflective. All right. So the way people make decisions, um, defines whether they are thinking or feeling. So individuals that prefer consistency and logic tend to be more on the thinking side, and those who examine how their decisions will impact people and their circumstances are more on the feeling side. So let's take a look at thinking. These people always want truth. They're looking for logic. They want the black and white. They want the pros and cons, the dirty details of the situation. They don't tend to react emotionally first. They want to get all the information and then make a decision that is not emotionally driven. Feelers, however, on in contrast, they're more they're more people oriented in the way that they consider the thoughts and feelings of others. They tend to be warm, caring individuals, and they are concerned about the value or the principle behind what actions or what data is involved. They tend to be uncomfortable when there's disharmony, and it can add anxiety, or they may avoid the situations altogether. Um, but these are overall just compassionate individuals, and they tend to be a little bit more emotionally led. That isn't to say that they don't have logic or that thinkers don't have a feeling side. Both of these exist in every person, but you may slant a little bit more, you may be a little more inclined to one than the other. So, people who use the judging function prefer structure and finite decisions. Individuals that use the perceiving function tend to be more flexible, adaptable, and gather new information. So, judging people they're the people that have all of their ducks in a row. They are annoyingly thorough with their plans, with their calendars, and with their day-to-day use of their time. They tend to make lists. They tend to task out things where um, perceivers might rather go with the flow. So perceivers, they're more flexible and spontaneous. They're the people that, take a well-planned day and decide to just throw it out the window and do something, try something new. Um, that They prefer to stay open and they're a little bit more flexible in perceiving information, and processing it and possibly coming to a different conclusion. While the uh, judging side will take facts and logic and then make a decision and never look back. So these individuals tend to be more creative, more artistic, and artistic, and have lots of energy, and they're definitely more spontaneous. So the 16 personality groups can be kind of collated into a couple generalized categories. So once you look up, if hopefully you've already looked up your MBTI, but you'll identify as one of these 16 personality types, and then you can understand kind of the group that these four individuals that have similar types to yours, how they, what their modium of, their modality of thought is. So, according to personality expert David Kiersey, the Guardian group are the cornerstones of most societies. These individuals are the most effective organizational leaders. They know how to have fun with their friends, but they take their duties seriously. Guardians want to serve and preserve societal institutions and workplaces. Guardians also believe in law and order. So the Guardian group makes up about 40 to 45% of the population. They tend to do thankless jobs that the rest of us take for granted. They're meticulous about schedules and they follow proper procedures. They are cautious, but realize change can be healthy for any institution. All right. Personality group rationals. Rationals comprise 5 to 10% of the population. They are pragmatic, skeptical, self-contained, and focused on problem solving and systems. They pride themselves on being ingenious, independent, and strong-willed. These individuals are strategic leaders. Most are even-tempered, logical, and desire to learn how the world works. Their drive has helped humanity develop new technologies that shape our world. The artisan leaders. They're fun-loving, realistic, optimistic, and focused. These bold individuals pride themselves on being unconventional and spontaneous. They are creative, excitable leaders who troubleshoot problems. Artisans prize freedom and master action skills. Individuals with this personality type are impulsive, adaptable, and generous. They bring grace and beauty to their professions. This group makes up about 30 to 35% of the population. And lastly, idealists. These individuals are giving, spiritual, and trusting. They make up about 15 to 20% of the population. Idealists have an extraordinary ability to influence, inspire, and motivate others. They focus their energy on other people's potential and their journey. These inspirational people motivate others with their authenticity. Idealists trust their intuition. They prize harmony and harmonious relationships. These leaders have a talent for helping people get along and work together. Idealists are extremely rare. Keeping the MBTI and the different personality types in mind, let's start chapter 6 on management and leadership, and we can see how some of these styles might be reflected uh, in uh, in interpersonal communication and how they lead and direct others. So we'll be talking about the changes occurring in the management function. We'll describe the four functions of management. We'll relate the planning process and decision-making processes to company goals. We'll talk about the organizing function, and we'll talk about the differences between leaders and managers and discuss some leadership styles. We'll also discuss the 5 steps of the control function of management. So, firstly, what is management? This definition is very important because the functions of management lie within the definition. The process used to accomplish organizational goals through planning, organizing, leading, and controlling people and their organizational resources. So, as we can tell, the four functions of management derive directly from the definition. Um, Managers plan, organize, lead, and control. So, what does that mean? That means that planning is the function that includes anticipating trends and determining the best strategies and tactics to achieve organizational goals and objectives. Organizing is a management function that includes designing the structure of the org and creating conditions and systems in which everyone and everything can work together to achieve the goals and objectives of the company. Leading a vision for the organization and guiding, training, coaching, and motivating others to work effectively will achieve the organization's goals and objectives. The controlling function involves establishing standards to determine whether or not the organization's progressing towards its goals and objectives, whether it's rewarding people who are doing a good job, and taking corrective action for those that are not. Colin Pearson. Today's managers place an emphasis on team building as opposed to having one manager micromanaging and overseeing individuals doing task level work. So manager's role has become more of a boss, excuse me, more of a coach and less of a boss. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that managers do in the planning function. So planning involves organizational goals, developing strategies, overarching to achieve those goals, trying to determine what resources are needed, and planning resources could be financial, it could be human resources, it could be space allocation, and then setting standards for their teams. The organizing role comprised of task assignment and establishing the procedures that are a level below kind of like over the overarching strategy. So what moves do we need to make tactically in order to get to the ultimate goal? So, preparing the structure at the top level of the organization, that would be developing the organization chart. Middle and lower managers would, um, organize who does what on their teams in order to fulfill operational duties. It also includes training, recruiting, and selecting employees and putting them in positions where they will be the most efficient and effective. Leading as a managerial task includes performance evaluations, it includes tasking work and organizing routines for their subordinates. And the controlling function is comprises the day-to-day activities, which helps them, reward performance that is done well, encourage performance when, goals are not being met, um, and uh, and then measuring the result of performance after the fact. So employee empowerment has to do with allowing your staff to make decisions within the vicinity, within the locus of their control. So that might mean if someone is manning the register, that they have the power to use discretion to do price adjustments, to override certain functions that would traditionally need a manager. So this allows the employee more autonomy to um, to do what they already believe or may know is correct. And it reduces the hassle, weight, and overhead that that customers face from experiencing multiple levels of management and approvals. So, let's talk about empowerment versus enablement. So, empowerment is giving your employees authority to make decisions. It's giving them a level of responsibility over the task level and allowing them to do more, you know, make more decisions, have more freedom within their day-to-day jobs. Enablement refers to providing the tools necessary to empower those individuals to do their job and to do it well. In the target example, we may be empowering individuals to make more decisions and to allow certain tasks or override tasks, etc. But we also need to make sure that they know the process, they understand under what circumstances they're able to make those kinds of decisions, and that they have the tools and the training necessary to actually perform those functions. Especially in the initial creation of a business, you're going to want to use the management planning function to develop the organization's visions, goals, and objectives. When creating a mission statement for the organization, it should reflect the company's philosophy, how they're going to address the customer's needs, any obligations to social responsibility, and what type of product or services it offers. The mission statement is the outline of the fundamental purposes of the organization. When we're talking about the difference between goals and objectives, goals are the broad long-term accomplishments the organization needs to obtain. Objectives are specific short-term statements that detail how to achieve the organization's goals. You could think of it in a way of playing a soccer game, and the objectives are the short-term moves and changes and runs that the individual makes in order to achieve the goal of scoring a point. Now, a SWOT analysis is often used in planning and decision making at various levels of the company and for various purposes. It's used in project management. It's also used at the top management level to understand the company's position in the market. So, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the strengths address the specific competencies and the value proposition that the company adds. It talks about its best-selling products and any other aspects that contribute to the overall value or uniqueness of the company. Weaknesses are areas that management has identified are not doing as well. They may need to be addressed with more resources, with more time, or just developing a whole new strategy altogether. For example, if the marketing campaign is not effective, that would be assigned as a weakness, and it could be addressed through the SWOT analysis. Opportunities are external environmental factors or new areas that the company can branch out to in order to address either new customers or the same customers in a repeat or in a growth manner. Threats are external as well, and they deal with competitors and different types of legal or governmental compliance requirements that may change over time and may threaten the functionality of the business. So there are four different forms of planning functions. Strategic planning, as we talked about, starts at the top and it is broad and long-term in nature. It's created by top management. Tactical planning is at the other end. That is the job of the lower level managers, and it helps them to do to achieve their goals and fulfill their objectives in the short-term manner. Operational planning is the overall scheduling of work and setting standards and procedures for everyday production or services. Contingency planning kicks in when something goes wrong. So this contingency plan could relate to disaster recovery, a cybersecurity hacks, or other exposures that are constitute an emergency. So having a contingency plan is very important because you don't want to make hasty decisions in the middle of, a catastrophic event. All right, we talked about strategic planning and tactical planning being short term, operational planning, talking about the scheduling and fulfilling the short term objectives of the company. The contingency planning allows you to prepare alternative courses of action, and they only kick in once the normal plan, the regular plan, is not going as anticipated. Some examples of events that could require a contingency plan to kick in or to be put in place would be the COVID-19, a terrorist attack, or a natural disaster. So, in management or in life, when making decisions, there is a process, a six-step process that you can and should go through in order to make quality decisions and to learn from them so you can repeat the process. The first and foremost part of the rational decision-making model is to decide what it is you're making a decision about. This is not as easy as it seems. In a corporate setting, people will often come to meetings and talk a lot about multiple subjects and still not reach a definition of what is actually wrong or what problem needs to be addressed. So once you've defined the situation or the problem, you need to collect whatever information you have on hand that is readily available about that decision. You can describe um, and collect that information from any of the individuals that are involved. Once you have the information readily available, you can discuss alternatives between um, what has been done in the past, what could be done in the future, perspective, outcomes, or uh, opportunities, for example, by choosing from a multitude of alternatives. From there, you would decide which one is best and carry forth to do what is indicated. The implementation phase should always have an owner and be a follow-up and have someone responsible for making sure that the process gets completed. In a project case, this would be the project manager would assign it to a functional owner, and then they would follow up to make sure that there's progress being made and that it's being completed. So once you've done whatever you decided needs to be done, the sixth step is just as important as the first step to determine whether the decision was a good one and follow up. So this allows companies to gain knowledge over past decisions, understand what went wrong before, and make better decisions in the future. Some ways you can come up with alternative information is through problem-solving teams. So you assign individuals that work with some of these everyday problems and get them together to try to find a quick resolution. Another way that you can find alternatives is through brainstorming. Brainstorming is simply coming up with as many solutions to a problem as you can in a short period of time. And there are no bad ideas, just simply ideas that can be thrown out for consideration. And the third option is to use PMI. PMI stands for positive, plus, minus, and interesting. This lists the pluses for a solution in one column, the minuses in a secondary column, and the interesting points in a third column. So this will allow you to literally weigh the pros and cons against each other and come to a conclusion. All right. In creating a unified system of management, there are typically, and there can be multiple levels, but typically we would refer to management in three levels. One is top management. This is the highest level, the executive committee, who develops the strategic plan and makes all of the large decisions for the company, which affect the company in its entirety. Middle managers take that strategy and they put it into action. They develop goals and they allocate resources that have been approved in order to carry out the work that supervisory management and the individual contributors will add to. So supervisory management are the direct supervisors of the workers, and they regularly evaluate performance. They're also known as first line managers. All right. We discussed technical skills. Those refer to a knowledge or competency in a specific discipline or department. Think coding, think financial analytics, and those types of skills that are really hands-on to getting the work accomplished. Secondly, human resource skills are skills that have anything to do with people. So it involves communication, it involves working with and through people to accomplish objectives. Thirdly, conceptual skills are those big picture skills that allow us to bring all the information together, allow us to roll up productivity and operational activities in order to make sure that they're aligning with the top level strategy and that the company is moving forward. So, first line managers specifically need technical and human relations skills. Top level managers tend to spend more time on conceptual skills. Just a basic note that the textbook highlights when you are in a managerial or in a leadership position, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have reports, but make sure from time to time that you are acknowledging individuals' value and their contribution. This does more than you think it can. And I mentioned in my in-person class as well, you are in um, a higher education setting, you're attending college, many of you are degree seeking. Your peers, your family members, your friends look up to you, whether you realize it or not. And they also want to know that they have value in your lives. So I yeah, I really want to change number three where it says the little people. But even the people that are part of or surrounding the work that you do should be treated with value and respect. Having gratitude for individuals, it can really pull them out of slumps and it makes their job more enjoyable. So we talked about the three types of skills and that all three types of managers, top, middle, and first line managers, need to have. So this chart depicts the ratio of skills that are needed in each type of position. As I mentioned earlier, conceptual skills are the main focus of top managers, although they also need human relation skills and may need technical skills. Middle managers tend to have a balance between the three, and first line managers have an abundance of technical skills because they're working directly with the people that are getting the work done. Since they are also managers, they equally need human relations skills and also need to understand to some degree the bigger picture and how the work ties in to the overall strategy of the company. All right. Now let's talk about a few different types of leadership styles. Autocratic leaders tend to make decisions and they don't include a lot of audience or feedback or participation when making those decisions. This is very effective in a environment where people are doing very rudimentary tasks and simply need to be told what work needs to be done so they can just do it. It doesn't involve a lot of thought or creativity or even planning. So participative leadership is when managers work together with their teams to create, to manage decisions. And this can work in, like, for example, excuse me, a software development team where the Scrum Master may be in charge of the team, but they're also a very integral part of the work. They know what's being done. They're actively delegating and working and making decisions and finalizing information along with the rest of the team. Free rein leadership, as a third option, is a style that involves managers, they set the objective and then they let the employee free to do what they need to do to accomplish their jobs. So there's very little supervising or oversight, and there's no micromanaging involved. It's basically like you are the contributor, you know what needs to be done. I trust you to go and get it done. Um, All right, so in the three leadership styles, authoritarian, again, is when you don't ask for participation in making decisions, you simply dictate what needs to be done, and the subordinate carries out the task. Participative leadership is working together as a team and engaging with the team to get the work done. Delegative leadership is allowing the individual to set or the team to set their own deadlines, to produce their own goals, and design how the work is going to be done. Another management requirement is involved with knowledge management. So, what is knowledge management? This is finding information, making it readily accessible, and making the information known to everyone in the firm. Have you ever worked for a company where you had a human resources question and had no idea where to go or how to get started? The path in order to find out the answer might have been long and winding. It might have, incurred calling a phone number and being on a website and filling out a form and eventually hearing back from the human resources. So, with knowledge management, this allows people to get the information that they need, to know where to find it, and when they need it, it's readily available to them. So, you can think about in the second scenario how the HR team has just one phone number or just one website and an open inquiry that they will address your issue or concern easily and swiftly, and how much less pain a good knowledge management system can contribute to the overall company. All right, now let's discuss the process of control. So the controlling process includes establishing an initial standard. How fast does production need to be? To what degree of exactness does the product need to result in? These kind of standards need to be, initially established. Once they're understood, and production or, routine tasks are being carried out, then you can monitor and record the performance of the individuals and of the machinery doing the tasks. Sorry about that. Active evening. So then once you've established standards, then you have something that you can monitor and you can track the performance of over time. With that data, you can compare the results against the original standard, communicate them to the team, and if needed, take corrective action. Think about the manufacturing environment scenario. What are the standards and procedures that are put in place? How do we record and monitor those situations? Then we can compare them from against the standards, let the team know what the results are, and if they are ineffective, we can start troubleshooting what the source or the reason is that it's not meeting standards. Is the machine malfunctioning? Are the employees working at the rate that they're supposed to? Are the materials available to continue production, for example? And if everything is met, then we may need to reevaluate whether or not our original standards are on par with what is possible and what is available to us. I wanted to close with a little bit more related to the MBTI. I would love for you to read through each of these in your own time, or you can pause this and, check the slides on the presentation portion in the content under Chapter 6. But this talks about different types of leaders, and you may have experienced some of these leadership types in your work or in your teams at school or in relations with other people. So I wanted to point out here that the pros or the things that these leaders do that are effective or the areas where they accelerate in tend to how do I say this? They tend to complement other leadership styles in the way that they may not be as well inclined to this a different personality type strengths. However, they may have the opposite or complementary leadership style, which allows multiple types of personalities to work together in harmony. So, for example, if one leadership style is, tends to focus on the long term, right? They may be more adept to strategic and visions and planning in the long term, and the other may be more spontaneous, more creative, and more agile and willing to react to situations. You can see how both management styles can complement each other, and not everyone needs to have every single strength, right? And then the weaknesses at the same time, or areas that we can improve on. Um, what I like about the MBTI is that it kind of gently points these things out, so we can be made aware of them. And we can also learn how to adapt to other personalities. For example, I'm very logically grounded. I love schedules. I like being on time. I find it very difficult to work with creatives because they tend to kind of make their own timeline and they develop things when they feel like it, but it may not adhere to my black and white schedule, right? However, both types are necessary to do different, to complement the company in different stages and areas of work. Lastly, I want to close on some of the qualities of a good leader. These are specific areas that I believe help with consistency and help with managing over the long term, not just the short term. And I wonder if you guys agree with any of these, if you disagree, or if there's anything else that you would add to it. In closing, who is a leader? I like this quote. It's unknown who said it, but a leader is a person who has a vision, a drive, and a commitment to achieve that vision and the skills to make it happen. Leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he wants to do it. That's by our former president, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed chapter 6.